Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down the threat of a severe weather outbreak across the United States tonight and tomorrow. This will bring the threat for large to very large hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes. I'll give you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today. We'll begin with the Central Plains, which is where we've actually seen severe weather over the last 24 hours, but things are really going to start to ramp up tonight, where we could see the threat of some numerous to widespread storms that could produce all modes of severe weather. There is a little bit of convection out there already. We'll see more supercells develop later this afternoon and as well as into the evening hours. A bit further off to the east, we do actually have a ridge in place along the east coast. This is keeping areas back over in the northeast, back through Florida, fairly dry today and as well as warmer, and that will continue over the next 24 hours. But before that happens, we'll be watching a low pressure system develop over the Central Plains. This is what's going to bring the threat for a severe weather outbreak both tonight and tomorrow across a pretty large chunk of the country. And after this does pass through, cooler weather will arrive to the United States. We could even see below freezing temperatures in some areas like Arkansas and maybe even northern Oklahoma. Something that's really interesting is the jet stream. With this setup particularly, we're going to have a negatively tilted trough. We've had this a lot recently with a lot of the severe weather outbreaks that we've had. Negatively tilted troughs, what they basically do is increase the upper level winds, which will help to increase the longevity of supercells. But not just that, it also helps to pull moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico with strong southerly winds. Now, really with this sort of setup over the next few days, this low pressure system will really become more focused over the Central Plains by tomorrow. Now, tonight we still have a very prime setup for severe weather, but we might also see a severe weather outbreak across areas in the southern plains and back through the Mississippi Valley for tomorrow afternoon and evening. So something else to watch for very closely. Once we go into Friday into Saturday, this low pressure system becomes a bit more disorganized, so we might see some showers and storms, but severe weather will be much lesser by Friday and Saturday, which is good news there. But we still have to be very concerned about what's upcoming here over the next 48 hours. Now, on the future radar, we're going to be watching again a low pressure system developing over the central United States over the next 24 hours. What this will do is help to create the threat of severe weather beginning tonight. There will be a chance for some supercell storms to fire up from Kansas and maybe even into Oklahoma, back through areas even in southern Minnesota. And then once we go into tomorrow, that is when severe weather becomes much more numerous, most likely across areas from Missouri back into Texas. We actually could see a severe weather threat as far north as areas near Chicago and maybe even Milwaukee. It's a very large area for both today and tomorrow. The thing is, the main focus of severe weather will be in separate areas. I'll show you where those areas are in just a moment. Once we go into Friday and as well as into Saturday, we might see some more showers and storms spur up across areas like the Ohio Valley, maybe the mid-Atlantic region, but severe weather at this time is not really expected out that direction. If there is any, it'll be very isolated in nature. And then eventually going into this weekend, a ridge will start to build back into the United States. So for those that have weekend plans, things look to be a bit nicer by then. Now let's talk about the threat of severe weather over the next several days. There's going to be multiple chances for severe weather. So I'm going to give you a day-by-day look and when you can expect severe weather and what the threats will be. Beginning with tonight, there is an enhanced risk of severe weather. It's not very large, but don't get too caught up in just the enhanced risk of severe weather, because there is a very large area of where we could see severe storms tonight. That extends from Wisconsin and Illinois all the way back through areas in Texas. This is where we could see some large to very large hail. Would rule out hailstones upwards of 4 inches in diameter. There's also a chance for a couple of tornadoes and as well as damaging wind gusts, but really stay very weather aware tonight. If you're anywhere in the slight risk or enhanced risk, this area in particular has the greatest chance of severe weather tonight. We could very well see some very significant hail, and again, it could go upwards of 4 inches in diameter. This is the current hail outlook, and you might notice that hatched area, that represents a 10% probability within a 25-mile radius of hailstones exceeding 2 inches in diameter. So you want to make sure you are protecting your vehicle tonight and take all the proper precautions, because things are going to get very hectic out there if any supercells develop across that region. Now, for the damaging wind threat, it's going to be the highest and most focused across areas in southwest Iowa, back through northeast Kansas and southeastern sections of Nebraska. That is where we could see some very significant damaging winds. And speaking of significant damaging winds, there's going to be a chance for some flying trampolines as well. It's a medium risk for tonight. The main threat of that will be across areas in the areas that I just mentioned in that hatched region. So make sure you're protecting your trampoline tonight. Hatch it down. Now, in terms of the tornado risk, it's not high tonight. It's kind of on the low end of things anyways. We're going to have a 5% probability within a 25-mile radius across Iowa, southeast sections of Nebraska, northwest Missouri, and as well as northeast Kansas, and another 5% tornado risk back down in north central Texas, and as well as areas areas in Oklahoma. So definitely make sure that you are staying weather aware tonight and have multiple ways to receive alerts. And for tomorrow, the risk of severe weather might go to an enhanced risk. I would not rule that out across areas like Texas, maybe northwest Louisiana and southwest Arkansas. But for right now, there is a slight risk of severe weather from St. Louis back into Texas. This is going to be mainly for the threat of large to very large hail, especially across areas near DFW, back through Waco, just north of Austin, and eventually going into the tornado risk. It's not that high. It should remain low overall. The tornado risk is very low across areas in the Midwest, and there's also a very low risk of a tornado back through Texas and as well as Arkansas. And then heading into Friday, things begin to wind down a bit. We're not looking at as significant of a threat. There will be a chance, though, for some damaging winds and maybe a little bit of large hail across areas in southeast Texas and as well as even back through the lower Mississippi Valley. So just make sure you're aware of that on Friday. Now, for the timing, we'll have a threat of severe weather tonight, tomorrow, and Friday. Let's begin with what's going to be happening this afternoon and evening. Storms are likely going to fire off sometime around 5 to 8 o'clock tonight Central Time. So we'll be watching for some significant severe weather. Now, again, this is a pretty, I would say, aggressive computer model in a sense, because I think that there will be a chance that we do not see as many discrete supercells as this. It'll be probably more of a cluster of storms, meaning hail and damaging winds will be main concern, with maybe an isolated tornado or two. Look back down to your south as well. There is a chance for a couple of supercells to develop tonight. However, there is going to likely be a cap in place, and if that cap is overcome, we might see some cells really fire off, and all modes of severe weather would be possible across Oklahoma and North Texas. But I still think that threat of severe weather is low tonight, but there is a chance, so make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts. Once we go close to about 9 to 10 o'clock tonight, storms are rolling through Iowa and is back through Nebraska. And eventually going into the overnight hours, we'll still see showers and storms across Iowa, with a lot of these producing just damaging winds overnight. And by tomorrow morning, that severe weather threat will shift off to the east. Now, for what's going to happen tomorrow, we have a more significant chance, I would say, of severe weather tomorrow. It all really begins during the afternoon hours. So you'll notice here right around lunchtime or so, storms start to fire up about 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right along a dry line. That is where severe storms are going to start firing up from Missouri and even as far north as Illinois, back into North Texas. The most significant severe weather I'm expecting to be is in this region here, so southwest sections of Arkansas, northwest Louisiana, and as well as back through north and northeast Texas. And by the afternoon and evening hours, these storms will become very, very clustered together. What that means is, again, a damaging wind and hail threat will be maximized. The tornado risk will be fairly low overall. Once we go into the overnight hours, that is when storms will continue to march out to the east, and we'll eventually see some more storm activity back into Louisiana, which damaging winds is the main concern going into Friday morning. That is when that threat of severe weather will exist. Now, the Ohio Valley and as well as the Mississippi Valley will be quite interesting, especially on Thursday. Severe storms are likely going to start firing up along that dry line during the afternoon hours, and they will fire up right around lunchtime. It'll be a little bit earlier than North Texas, where they're going to fire up a few hours later. That is where significant severe weather is possible. The large hail threat is mainly going to be the concern, but there might be some damaging winds, maybe a brief tornado as well. By the evening hours and just after sunset, storms will continue to march out to the east, and then damaging winds may be possible going into the morning hours on Friday across Kentucky and Tennessee. But really, overall, 60-mile-per-hour damaging winds is the cap, I would say, on the damaging wind threat there. Now, there is going to be a chance for a very small-scale winter weather event back out into the Midwest. I don't expect much of anything. I mentioned this a few days ago. There might just be a little bit of light snow, but that's about it. Luckily, we're not looking at too much snow here. Maybe a coating to maybe an inch of snow going into Saturday across areas in Wisconsin, but again, nothing too concerning there. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you've not already. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting.